And they also have a location in Lakeville where if I was still living in Lakeville, I'd be there all the time.
Yeah, Jim, and love our new sponsor, a terrific restaurant, B52 Burgers and Brew, Inver Grove Heights in Lakeville, and the Inver Grove Heights location, 5 minutes from Vikings headquarters in Eagan, as you mentioned. And the B52 in Inver Grove is the new home of our Monday Night Purple show live on News Talk 830 WCCO Radio, and had Anthony Harris there last Monday, Harrison Smith for the opening week, and this coming Monday, after the Raider game, Eric Kendricks, the starting middle linebacker, four-time leading tackler for the Vikings, will be our special player guest and co-hosting with Joe Anderson and myself. And we'll be talking about the Raiders game and preview the Bears coming up next week and hit NFL hot topics and get to know the players better. A lot of fun in the show. I encourage everyone to go to B52 Burgers and Brew, Inver Grove Heights in Lakeville. They have a terrific menu, 25 varieties of burgers and great entrees and appetizers. And B52 will have Monday night specials, a fun rooftop patio while the weather's still good, and they have a fantastic Sunday brunch. So check out their website, b52burgersandbrew.com, and hope to see you there.
And if you want to check out their website, their menu, everything else, locations, you can find it at b52burgersandbrew.com. I know I'm being repetitive, but I just want you to have it in your head. Let's talk. It's a fascinating quarterback league right now. Eli gets benched. Ben gets knocked out for the season, and the Steelers not only decide to go with Mason Rudolph, they also trade a first-round pick for a cornerback, indicating they have no interest in tanking. They have no interest in a high draft pick next year to get a replacement quarterback, which to me indicates they think Mason Rudolph has something and that it can either be competitive this year or in the near future. You have Mahomes lighting it up. You have Lamar Jackson lighting it up. So I'm just going to throw the entire position of quarterback to you. Non-Cousins quarterbacks, what intrigues you?
Well, I think that, first of all, I have a lot of respect for Kevin Colbert, the Steelers GM, and he always finds players. And if he identified Mason Rudolph in the third round last year out of Oklahoma State as the guy that he thought was going to be the potential future or a good backup number two to Roethlisberger for several years, then I kind of trust Kevin Colbert, and it'll be interesting to see how Mason Rudolph performs. He was okay in his first game last week when he had to step in for Roethlisberger. He had an interception, which was not his fault. It was a deflection off of Moncrief's hands. And so we'll see. I think in terms of what's interesting to me about Mason Rudolph and Drew Brees hurting his thumb in New Orleans,
right,
he's out for 6
So Teddy's going to get a shot there.
Yeah, so he's out for 6 to 8 weeks, and Teddy Bridgewater steps in there, and I think it's really a great opportunity for these young quarterbacks. And Bridgewater's not so young anymore,
no.
But it's a great opportunity for him and for Rudolph to show their wares as a potential starting quarterback in the NFL, whether it's in their current spot or a future spot. And I'm sure they'd rather have it be in their current spot. So that will be interesting to watch, and they both have kind of tough tests going into their first games, though. And when you look at the schedule this week, and I think Rudolph, if I'm not mistaken, goes into Seattle, and I think Bridgewater goes. One of them plays in Seattle.
Steelers play at San Francisco.
And
Bridgewater plays at Seattle.
Two tough places to go, and both teams are 2-0 that they're facing. Now, the 49ers I'm not buying into yet, but I think the Seahawks are legit and a very good team. And so we'll see how that all plays out, but I think that they both have a good test and good opportunities too. And so I think when you look at Bridgewater's situation, for example, Mickey Loomis, the GM, longtime friend of mine, and Sean Payton both had the confidence in him that they gave him $7.25 million on a one-year deal, which is as high as I think any number two quarterback in the league is making this year. And so they obviously feel like he's a guy that they want not only for this year, but potentially for the future. And we'll see how that shakes out. We know at one time Mike Zimmer wanted Teddy Bridgewater to be his guy.
Well, I never thought Teddy was going to be a spectacular record-setting quarterback, but I always thought he could run a winning team. I always thought he had what it took to be a leader, to make the right play at the right time, mental toughness, physical toughness. mobility, accuracy. His weakness when he was here was he didn't throw a great deep ball. That's probably something he could have gotten better at over time. But he just gave me, and I don't want to quote Zimmer because but he just gave me a good feeling when he was out there.
Yeah, I think he was a good leader.
Yep.
And I think that the players respected and liked him a lot.
The players loved him.
Yeah, and so I think that's part and parcel of being a successful quarterback in the league, that your players buy into you and your coaches do too. And so it's just the injury obviously was so devastating when it happened, and they couldn't wait on him for the recovery. So that's how Kirk Cousins ended up here. That's how Bradford ended up here back in the day. And we'll see. I hope he does well in New Orleans. But I don't see Drew Brees retiring in the next year or so. So I think Teddy will still have to be sitting for a while. And same thing with Roethlisberger, although he may be more of a potential to say I've had enough. I think based on his past conversation and so forth. But in terms of the Giants, it's just hard to understand what they were thinking, even bringing Eli back in the first place. Yeah. And you knew it wasn't going to be a great season in New York. Why you want to pay him $20-some million? And unless you're really trying to keep the pressure off Daniel Jones as your first-round pick. But if you identify a guy in the top 10 as a quarterback, you got to almost figure these days they're going to start at some point in that rookie year. And people thought, well, maybe it'll be halfway through the year. Well, didn't last that long. And Pat Shurmur's given Eli the hook, and yeah, so they eat that money. I think Dave Gettleman's made so many bad moves in New York, and not that I blame him for trading OBJ, but if you're going to trade OBJ, have somebody to replace him,
and don't sign him to the big contract.
Exactly. Don't sign him to a $95 million deal. So you got $17 million of dead money or whatever. So many mistakes he's made. I'll be amazed if he survives this. And even though the Maras family, we know that they have a lot of patience with their GMs historically, but too many bad moves by Dave Gettleman, and this bringing Eli back is just another one.
Yeah, absolutely. So Eli ends his career with 2 Super Bowl victories and some great playoff performances and a .500 regular season record. Is he a great quarterback who is bogged down by some bad teams in some seasons, or was he an okay quarterback who just rose to the moment? Or other.
Yeah, I think it's kind of tough to evaluate Eli, and part of the problem for him is he's always going to be in Peyton's shadow to a certain extent.
Although he won more Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Well, no, won the same number.
Same number, 2 Super Bowls.
Peyton won the kind of the end of his career Super Bowl with Gary Kubiak.
Yeah, and Eli certainly has some huge moments in his career, and he can thank David Tyree for one of them on the amazing catch against the Patriots. But he still beat a team that was undefeated at the time, and took the Giants on some great postseason runs. Is he a Hall of Famer? I don't think so in my view, just because of the regular season record and great playoff success from time to time. But as you said, that .500 record, that kind of knocks him down a little bit, and inconsistency over his career, and especially in the last 4 or 5 years. So I don't see Eli as a Hall of Famer. I see him as a good quarterback, had some great runs in his career, but overall, just not the most consistent guy around.
I agree with you. And, his career completion percentage in an era when completing passes just isn't that difficult was 60.3. His rating was 84.1. He was, I mean, it's not exactly an insult to say that he played his best in his biggest games. That's actually quite a compliment.
Yeah.
But I just don't think in total it's a Hall of Fame resume. And I still think as much as the NFL and NFL fans emphasize championships, I think you got to look at the entire body of work.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there are other guys that have won championships that have not been in the Hall of Fame too.
Absolutely.
And guys like Trent Dilfer and Doug Williams and people like that that had, in terms of a Doug Williams, he had a lot of great statistical years. And,
he did.
And then he finally won a Super Bowl. But so we'll see how it shakes out for Eli. And hey, not to say that his career is over. It appears it is, but stranger things have happened. Somebody may bring him back as a future number 2, and then all of a sudden he gets an opportunity. I don't see that happening, but who knows?
2 more topics I want to get to. We're going to give our Vikings Oakland pick to finish the show. I do want to talk about Antonio Brown, though. And remember, Bite Squad, morning, noon, night, late night, snacks, office, home, elsewhere. Promo code is Talk North for first delivery fee waived. Keep using it after that because they've been a great company to work with. They deliver food, and it just looks like it came right from the restaurant. They work at a lot of restaurants, so go ahead and do that. Antonio Brown, what a mess. And we always have the default position of thinking everything Bill Belichick does is genius. Even if it's evil genius, it's genius. I mean, did the Patriots kind of screw this up by not doing more due diligence on what this guy had done and what he'd been going through?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say how this is going to end up, and we don't know about the sexual assault allegations and that whole case, but it's kind of ugly. It's kind of a black mark on the whole situation of Antonio Brown, on top of his diva personality, on top of his whole thing with Oakland, which was disastrous for the Raiders, and makes Antonio Brown look bad that he's in, then he's out of Oakland, and so. But I don't think Bill Belichick really cares about it.
No,
I think that he's just figuring, hey, took a flyer on the guy. If it works out, it works out. Now, it was a $15 million flyer, but week one catches a touchdown pass, 4 catches, and the Patriots are already steamrolling people. So perhaps it will work out for him. In any event, I think it's a short-term kind of deal, such as when he brought Randy Moss to New England, which lasted a couple of years.
Yeah, Moss was very good for them.
A very good play, and that could be the situation here. But to me, I think Antonio Brown is a disaster waiting to happen. I think Odell Beckham Jr. is the same situation for Cleveland. It's going to unravel at some point for them. It looked good last week, especially when the Jets don't cover him in the slot.
Good Lord.
That was just ridiculous.
And don't we also put, if Antonio Brown is guilty of what he's been accused of, it's a heinous crime.
Of course.
And there's a difference between being a pain in the butt and being a criminal. OBJ can be a pain in the butt sometimes. He's still a hell of a player. And the question is just how much value how much money do you put into a player like that? I mean, you can have that debate all day. But with Brown, I just wouldn't want him on my team.
No, I would not either. And the text messages, that whole thing with him, and it's just bad.
That's the thing. Even if all you knew about him was the text messages, I wouldn't want him around. Whether he's found guilty in a court of law or in a civil court, or he loses a case in a civil court, you have enough evidence to me to not want the guy in your building.
Right. I mean, to me, he's like a Tyreek Hill, same kind of deal.
Yep.
That I don't want him around either, because I think it's going to eventually blow up in your face.
Yep.
And so, but it's a lot of ugly stuff out there with Antonio, and I think it's a short-term deal in New England at best.
I agree. Let's do our pick. Let's see. Last week, I think we both picked the Vikings, so I think we're both 1-1 on the season.
Yes.
And really, that's why we're mad at Kirk Cousins. He messed up our pick. It's all
right.
about us.
That's right, of course.
I actually thought the Vikings played well enough to win that game in many ways, but it's just you got to have your quarterback make good decisions. All right, so now they get the Raiders at home. Raiders coming off kind of a blowout loss to Kansas City. I think Oakland is in for a bad season, but as you people like Jeff Diamond have told me over the years, when you play somebody who's really important, Oakland might not know they're bad yet. So what's your view of this game?
Yeah, I think that Mike Zimmer is going to mention Week 3 last year to the team, perhaps when Buffalo came to town and Vikings were supposed to blow them out, and Buffalo wins 27-6. It was a disaster game for the Vikings. It was right around the time the Everson Griffin stuff was going on. And I think that subject is going to come up this week. Don't underestimate anybody in the NFL. And so I think the Vikings will be ready to play. I think they'll want to prove some things, especially Cousins, after last week in Green Bay. And so I look for, I'm going to call it a 13-type point win for the Vikings. I'll say 30-17.
Interesting, because I'm right in there. I was going to say 33-16, something like that. I think they get on a roll. I think this defense plays much better at home and really, takes advantage of the crowd noise.
Definitely.
If they stop the run early, I think it's a long day for Oakland. So, I really do think, after talking to people all last season and all off season, it really felt like the view inside that building was the Everson Griffin stuff really freaked people out, and the combination of the Everson Griffin scenario playing out and the fact that Buffalo looked like a historically bad team. Remember, they had the terrible start last year. They had a key player just retire right before they played the Vikings.